So a clip has recently surfaced of Tom Tugendhat. He's a member of parliament for the Conservative Party in the United Kingdom. And we just had an election recently. And just prior to that, he was at a hustings with other candidates that he was competing with for his region, his constituency. And someone asked him in the audience what his view was on the tragedy unfolding in Gaza. And Tom gave a response which is, let's just say, not overly common in the British political establishment, where they'll often try to say, oh, well, yes, it is terrible, and, you know, it's just Israel really has to behave themselves, but I support Israel's right to self-defense. It's so tiresome. It's based on a false moral equivalence. And here, it is so refreshing to see him give a very different style of answer when being asked about the issue of what's happening in Gaza. Have a watch.
What would the candidates do, or what have they done, to bring peace to Gaza and end the mass punishment of Palestinian civilians and the tactics of starvation by the Israeli state?
I've been thinking about this a lot because I grew up studying Arabic in the Middle East. Many of my friends are Palestinian, living in camps either in Syria or Lebanon. Many were murdered by Iranians in the last few years. I've lost lots of friends who found themselves in exile in other parts, but nobody cares about them. Their deaths don't matter, do they? Because they weren't killed by Jews. But somehow, again, it's all the Jews. Somehow, again, it's all the Jews. At no stage, Mark, again, have you mentioned 100 people held hostage. At no stage have you mentioned 1,200 people murdered. At no stage have you spoken about those who were at their version of Glastonbury and were murdered in the early morning. They don't matter, do they, Mark? Not to you, they don't.
And I would also like to just point out, just for a bit of context, that he's served in the armed forces in Afghanistan and some other places, and he is very well experienced and knowledgeable on the international affairs arena. And it was so refreshing to see someone just call out the hypocrisy, the double standards, and the anti-Semitism that lies under the faux hysteria and outrage at Israel. People often try to indulge that faux outrage, but here we have someone, a non-Jew by the way, who stands up and says, I'm not going to be intimidated by your shame tactics, I'm not going to be intimidated by your hysteria. I'm going to say very clearly what's going on here, which is that Israel is fighting a just war. It is absolutely just. Everything about this war is just. And the entire moral onus lies on the Arabs, in the leadership in Gaza, in the West Bank and Judea and Samaria, by the way, as well, who since Israel's inception, even before Israel's inception, their sole goal has not been a Palestinian state, else they'd have one by now. They're not victims. They're part of an Arab world that is far greater than the Jews in Israel, that seeks Israel's destruction, because it is a Jewish state that was once controlled by Islamic empires when they conquered the land, by the way, from what was previously an ancient Jewish sovereign state, the last sovereign state that existed prior to the re-establishment of Israel. And they can't come to grips with that. And that's what fuels the conflict. That's what fuels their hostility to Israel. And he is prepared to actually finally call it out. I think many people were more indulgent in the lies of the anti-Israel side, and now they're starting to realize that it's just become silly. Doing this, indulging in these ideas of two states solution, two states for two people, continuing the status quo, all of that, indulging in the lies and in the anger, the faux hysteria, it doesn't get us anywhere. Actually, it costs lives, because it just perpetuates the conflict, perpetuates the fantasy of getting rid of Israel. The only answer is peace through strength, by being absolutely uncompromising and telling the truth. Part of the strength of peace through strength is stating the truth clearly. And here he did that. Where were their protests and anger and outrage at the far greater human tragedies that have existed even this year, this month, in so many other parts of the Arab world, the civil wars in Sudan, in Syria, the 1 million Uyghur Muslims who are oppressed and in camps in China, not a peep on the streets of Western cities there. And so it's great to see some people that are starting to get it, to see it. May more people also wake up and realise this too.
Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.